Today I want to talk to you guys about the healthcare system and the dire state that it's in. And I will be speaking a lot about the NHS, but just bear in mind here that this is relevant for both the UK and the US. I want to share some insights into what's actually going on in this country when it comes to the healthcare system. And most of all, I want to give you a bunch of resources and things that can really help you to actually take control of your own health. For those of you that don't know, I was brought up kind of weird. My parents aren't exactly normies, let's just put it that way. And because of this, I've always been aware of how messed up the system is. From the very early age of primary school, I was aware that the school system was completely and utterly messed up and it's just a brainwashing institute. But also at the same time, I was brought up to never rely on the doctor. And to be quite transparent, I have tried to avoid them as much as physically possible. But in order to do that, you need to have a certain level of knowledge when it comes to your health and holistic medicine. So today I want to give you as much information as I physically can. Some of these things you may never have even heard of before, but to me, they're quite normal. So let's just get into it. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of what I actually do if I have an ailment and how I actually look after my health, I do want to touch upon some of the issues that are actually happening with the NHS in particular, and some of the experiences that I've had as well with the NHS, because as much as I have tried to avoid using them as much as possible, there are still occasions where I've tried to get some form of help with certain things, and my expectations have always been extremely low. And those expectations have always been met at the bottom. In the UK, it's pretty widely known that the NHS is falling apart, if not has fallen apart. And even healthcare professionals in this country are admitting that on national television. And even when you go to the doctor, a lot of the doctors are admitting that the system has broken. And it's got to the point now where the doctors are actually saying to people, well, we can put you on a waiting list for your problem that's like fatal, but you'll probably be waiting years. So if you really want the problem solved, you're best off just going private. So I know that you guys in the US probably look at us in the UK and think, oh my God, they've got a free healthcare system. I can't believe that. Like, we're in a dire state because we have to pay for our medical care and people are becoming bankrupt just paying for medical care in America. But I want you to know that the NHS is more kind of like a gesture at this point. And at this point in time, you can just about rely on them to help you with like an immediate urgency. But that is just about it. Most of the people that I know that are experiencing or have experienced some form of health problem have had a terrible experience with the NHS to the point where even though they can't really afford it, they've chose to go private anyway because there is a complete breakdown of communication. You can literally tell a doctor what your problem is, they'll go off shift, then a few hours later you'll get another doctor and you'll have to reiterate your exact medical issue right from the beginning. It is like there is zero communication, and I'm not speaking for all healthcare professionals, but there are a lot of them that just don't really seem to care. And as you can imagine, if you've got a health problem, this is a scary scenario to be in, to be put in the hands of someone who doesn't care. But my issue was always the fact, not that they didn't care, but they don't know. With my upbringing, my entire philosophy when it comes to health is so far from the mainstream narrative. And I can pretty much confidently say that because of this, my health is pretty good compared to the average person. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to let you know that you have more power and control over your health than what you think. One thing that really shocked me was I was watching Question Time the other night and there was a lady telling her story that her daughter had been put into surgery and the surgeon did the wrong surgery on her because he thought that she was a different patient. Now, when I heard this story, I was so shocked. And I turned to my dad and I was like, oh my God, how is this not blown up on the news or something, or spoken about in a documentary? That's horrific. And he said to me, it's more common than you think. This woman's story was not an isolated incident. This is actually happening quite a lot. These monumental fuck-ups. So to anyone who's watching who raves about mainstream medicine, I just want you to bear these things in mind. We're constantly told in the UK that we should be so grateful that we even have the NHS. But like I said earlier, I just feel like it's a gesture. But even more important than that, the entire philosophy of what they do is backwards. I gotta be careful how I word this because you're not allowed to speak about it, so it makes it very difficult for me to properly articulate what I mean. But we live in a world right now where people parade people with that doctor title as if they are the ultimate all-knowing expert on everything. There seems to be this barrier where people think that if you somehow have got a medical degree, that you have this infinite flood of information and knowledge and you know everything about the human body and how it works, and that you know every single answer. And the reality is so far from that you would be shocked. I mentioned this in a previous video. I went to the doctors for more of a mechanical ailment, which again I will go into in a much further video. I want to wait until I actually heal this issue because it is a very weird ailment, but I don't want to talk about it yet because I want to heal it and then show you guys exactly how I did it. Until then, you're just gonna have to bear with me here. But I went in talking to this GP, thinking that I would get some kind of answer, and she was completely and utterly baffled. And what was really funny as well is that I had been researching loads of different terms of different muscles within the facial structure and the body. I was talking to her on a medical level about these muscle groups, and I honestly feel like she didn't actually know the terms that I was using. And I'm not a doctor. And then she continued on to say to me, you know, I've been a doctor for 40 years, and every day I see a new ailment that I've never even heard of before. She didn't use the word ailment, she used the word issue, but people are coming into the doctors, they've got these weird issues, and a lot of the GPs just don't even know what to say. And then they'll put you in for a referral to see a specialist. But then again, they say to you, well, you know, you might be waiting a few years. You're better off just going private. But as you guys know in America, when you go down that route, it starts to get very expensive. And another issue is that the only specialists that I personally would want to see would be holistic ones. And given the fact that you're not even really allowed to give out holistic advice on the internet because of censorship, it's an issue. It's like, where do you go to find a holistic healthcare professional? Well, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but they are out there. And one thing that I can say in particular is that chiropractors, in general, I believe most of them do end up having a holistic mindset when it comes to medicine. The reason for this is because of what they learn on their journey to becoming a chiropractor. They learn things such as the fact that pain is the last resort for the body to signal to you that something is wrong. You should not actually wait until you're in pain before you actually address an issue. But then you wonder to yourself, well, if I'm not in pain with something, then how do I even know that I have an issue? Well, that's for a whole nother video, really. Most of us are very disconnected from our bodies and disconnected from ourselves. Most of us are actually in a state of survival most of the time. If you want to know more about that, by the way, I will link a video below where I talk all about how to heal your nervous system, because if you can calm your nervous system and maintain that level of calm, majoritively health-wise you should be in a pretty good state, right? Obviously, I can't say that every single chiropractor out there is holistic, but the more research that I've been doing, every single one that I've came across on the internet, as well as the one that I go to, is holistic. So that's one option. Another thing to bear in mind is that in places like Thailand, for example, they practice Eastern medicine majoritively. Another lady that I go to is a Thai lady who does Thai massage, but she also has a plethora of knowledge on all things holistic. So these are some of the things that you can look out for if you're looking for someone holistic to go to. And I just want you guys to know that I'm not in an area where holistic medicine is even talked about, really. I find it incredibly lucky that I've managed to find the people that I have. And what I'm saying is that no matter where you are, if you look hard enough, you should be able to find someone. One way that I discovered recently is I know you guys are going to hate me promoting ChatGPT like this, but seriously, it is the more advanced version of Google. If you type into ChatGPT and ask it what holistic specialists are in my area, it won't guaranteed give you every single answer, but it'll try and find as many as it can. And I actually, funnily enough, came across a holistic dentist that is about an hour away that literally sells non-fluoride toothpaste, promotes mewing. His wife is a craniopath, and they're both heavily into holistic medicine, and they're actually practicing. I mean, given the fact that we live in basic communism, I don't even know how they're allowed to run their business because of how things are. You know, it kind of goes against the system, but I'm glad that they exist. I imagine that if you live in LA, you don't even need to do this. You just, I don't know. I just imagine that in LA, they're everywhere, you know, holistic practitioners. But then there's probably a lot of charlatans as well. Anyway, total tangent there. The next thing I want to say, and I have to be vague with this, but never underestimate the power of herbal medicine. And I'm not talking about the reefer. Right? That, in my opinion, is not actually a medicine. Maybe in the most tiny doses, but the moment that you start to get the effects from it, you've gone too far, in my opinion. What I'm talking about is straight up herbs in general. Things that are grown in the garden, in nature, that used to be common practice for so many years, and they only started becoming basically, the promotion of it started becoming near enough outlawed over the past 100 years. Thanks to J.D. Rockefeller. Anyway, the sole reason for this is simply so that modern medicine could become the norm. And as you can see from society, look at the state that people are in. Nearly everyone has got some kind of health problem. We are, as a culture, sicker than we've ever been before. But the media will have you believe differently. For me, I'm very lucky because as I've grown up, I've gathered knowledge when it comes to if I have a certain ailment, what herb pertains to helping that. This is primarily because my dad studied herbal medicine around the time that I was really, really little. So all throughout my life, whenever I've got sick, I've not gone to the doctor. I've just either, if it's been a flu type thing, which is, by the way, a detox, I will get onto that. I've never seen it like you go to the doctor for that because your body just needs to do what it needs to do. And because it's kind of dicey ground talking about these things, what I'm going to do is try and give you some resources so that if you have an ailment, you can research it yourself because so much of the time people just don't even know where to look. I'll try and ask if my dad has any books that he would recommend. Hello, editing me speaking right now. I didn't realise that we actually have quite a few books. Some of these might be a bit difficult to get hold of, but feel free to take a print screen. To be honest, I could do a whole dedicated video just for book recommendations, so if you guys would be interested in that, comment down below. One that I can think of off the top of my head is a book about DMSO written by Amanda Vollmer. If you're looking to watch videos of an internet doctor, I would highly, highly, highly recommend her. A lot of people now are watching doctors on YouTube talk about different ailments, and I have a certain criteria in my mind of whether or not I believe that they know what they're talking about or they're not. A lot of the time what I'll do is I'll actually trace back to 2020 and see what they were promoting during 2020. And if they, promote the thing, I won't listen to them. I wouldn't recommend to watch any of their videos because they don't know what they're talking about. On the contrary, any people who spoke up during that time are usually very knowledgeable. And one of those other doctors is Dr. Sam Bailey. Hugely, hugely recommend. If you're looking for someone who shows you actual data, actual studies, proof of everything that she claims, watch her videos. Seriously, because everything that she promotes when it comes to terrain theory, just know that I stand by that as well. And maybe I'm not as brave as her to go fully in depth using the exact terms because of how much backlash she has actually faced. But I really do commend her and her husband for doing what they do because the world needs to hear what they have to say. But I will just say this. When it comes to holistic medicine, it is more actually about preventing the ailment in the first place as opposed to constantly looking for a way to fix it. But one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that all ailments stem from three things: toxic thoughts, toxic food, and toxic chemicals. If I was to generalise, that is actually where the source of the ailments are coming from. Before 2020, I never ever questioned the existence of viruses, right? But that changed dramatically after a few months of the insanity that actually happened during that year. To be honest, when it comes to the elites, it was a huge mistake to do what they did because something that most of us didn't question before, we then began to question. And then people found extensive evidence and proof that viruses don't exist. They're not real. I'm trying to tell you here, right? Without getting in trouble. People think that I'm crazy when I say this, like normies. They cannot get their head around it. And I will admit, at the very, very beginning of 2020, when that all started to kick off, I believed it for like a month, okay? I know, it's embarrassing. I believed in the concept of transmission, right? That someone could be ill and that I could become ill from being around them, right? I do not have a single fear about that now because I know that that's not how it works. I know it. One of the things that got me was thinking, well, why would they lie about something like that? It didn't make sense. You also have to understand that brainwashing is a lot more powerful than what people think, and it's very hard to admit that you've been fooled, right? Ever since we were little, since we were in school, the existence of viruses has always been talked about, and we didn't even notice how often it was actually talked about. And all of that talking kept the belief going. And what it does, the reason why they lie about it is because it is the perfect scapegoat for what is actually really causing people to become ill. If people think that they just get ill randomly from some microbe that's just floating around in the air and it just goes into your body and then suddenly your body just starts reacting to it and trying to fight off this thing, right? If you think that, then the responsibility is not on you. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't eat anything bad. You didn't drink anything bad. It can't possibly be that the chemicals that you're putting all over your skin, the chemicals that are being pumped out of that plug-in that's plugged into the wall, spraying chemicals. You don't question the fact that it's maybe coming from the tap water. Maybe it's pollution. Maybe it's a terrible diet. Maybe it's seed oils. Maybe it's the medication. There are all of these things, and in fact, Dr. Sam Bailey did an amazing video going through this, 40 reasons why you could be ill, and it's not a virus, right? It makes it so that the elites can continue to relentlessly poison us from every single angle and we will never question how our health actually really works. We'll never understand the reality that when you get sick, when you are actually flued up, coughing, all of these things, that is your body's way of detoxing. That's what's going on. And then what's really messed up is that people then go straight to the doctor and they say, oh, this cold is annoying me. Oh, I don't like how I'm coughing all the time. Please give me something to stop these symptoms. So they give you something, yeah? You take it and you think that that's made you feel better because you can't feel the symptoms anymore. It's literally stopped you from being able to detox the poison that your body's trying to get rid of, and you've just took a medication that has pushed it back down again. I see this so clearly now, but let me tell you, I didn't understand this a good few years ago, the whole thing about that. So I get it. The truth is that the responsibility falls on us. But if you don't have the knowledge, if everywhere that you turn you're being lied to, then it also falls on the people who are lying to you, aka the media, the shadow government, yada, yada, yada. So many people live under the illusion that your body is just a ticking time bomb and that it's at any given moment you could just develop an ailment like that and it's for no reason. It just happened. But I'm telling you, there is always, every single time there is a reason. And sometimes it goes so far that you do need something to help your body because your body's struggling. But people have no idea that on a day-to-day basis, your body is doing 1,000,001 things to try and repair and regenerate, and we're not even conscious of it. It just happens. I'll give you a clear example here. I had an accident where I ripped my entire fingernail off at work. It was not my fault. The entire nail came off and it was gruesome and horrible. My colleagues sent me to A&E and I was like, this is weird. Like, I wouldn't have thought to go to A&E, but it was really, really, really bad to the point where I had to get the rest of the nail surgically removed and there was no nail and I just had a bandage on and it was incredibly painful, really painful. And I didn't ask people at the time, will I ever get my nail back? Will it ever regrow? Like, the whole thing has come off? Because I didn't really want to know the answer. And I just thought, it is going to grow back because my body knows what it's doing. And I have good health, good genetics. It will be fine. And after about 2 months, it started to grow back. And the stitches came out. And now... it was this one. Was it this one? I don't know. I can't tell because... I think it was this one. I can't tell because it has gone back to exactly how it was before the injury. That's how powerful your body is. I had a friend that was in a motorcycle accident and she couldn't walk. And I'm sure that the doctors probably said to her, oh, you may never be able to walk again. But she was so determined that she was like, no. This is what I'm envisioning in my head because I know what she's like. She's determined, right? She was literally in the gym maybe a month or two after, maybe even after a few weeks actually. And now we get on to the final most important point that can be sometimes frustrating to hear, especially, for me, for example, I can go into negative spirals. I really, really can. I know I speak on my channel about manifestation and the law of assumption. I'm mostly doing that because I know it's true and because I want to reaffirm it to myself. Because sometimes when you're in that negative state, you just can't think positively. But let me tell you, the brain and the body are constantly sending signals back and forth, and your beliefs are what is literally shaping not just your reality, but your body and your cells. Your body is automatically always working in your favour, but sometimes our brain can actually get in the way of that. That's what I'm saying. It's not like you have to actively keep working in your brain and keep saying, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am better, in order for it to work. What you need to do is to stop saying that you're not healthy Stop saying the negative things in your mind. Get rid of those beliefs that you cannot heal. And I know it's hard because we aren't just taught that we can't heal. We have been subliminally programmed to believe we can't heal. I mean, I'm just going to show this clip, right? I wanted to show this earlier in the video, but now is the time. This was what was playing while I was in the waiting room at the doctor's.
You ain't got no backbone. I get out the trap, I ain't got a backbone. And K's and O's, they're a little roulette, so I'm letting.
I'm not even going to say anything because I know that you guys will say it in the comments, but yeah. So what can you start doing today to take control of your own health? Well, this is what I would do. Try to remove as much toxicity from your life as you possibly can. And this is not about being perfect. We want to kind of throw away the perfectionism in this. I mean, if you can achieve a perfectly toxic-free life, then that's amazing. But for most people, it's not really very realistic because the more you realize that things are toxic, the more difficult it becomes to live a normal human life. I mean, put it this way, right? I really, really struggle to be around people that wear perfume. It literally ruins the entire experience for me because I can smell it so much. And that's something that I kind of struggle to avoid because it's on other people. And I can't control what other people do. But I'm still breathing in that shit. Same with if people are vaping. I mean, people thought smoking was bad. Other people think that. But vaping is a whole other level of toxicity. But again, it's a struggle to try and avoid that. But the more that you try and not shoot yourself in the foot, so look at what you have, look at the products that you're using, the food that you're eating, the things that you have in your household. The more knowledge that you gather over time, you start to realize, oh shit, this thing is toxic as well. Oh, I'll get rid of that. And it's a process. It really is. But just think every time that you're getting rid of something toxic, you're helping your body. You're giving it a step up the ladder. That's what the goal is here. I hope that this video was helpful. Let me know if you have any tips as well that you want to include in the comments, your experiences. Thank you so much to everyone who likes, comments, shares and subscribes, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you, bye.